Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdeed, ji ayanu, goedemorgen.
Bakhair agale, ni hao, chulushumme, washmale, hi, gutzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, halo shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swamiga, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning alongside the very fantastic, the very full of energy, the very coffee addicted, ladies and gentlemen, Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely great. Thank you so much for asking. And, well, guilty as charged.
Yeah. Well, I think coffee is great, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It makes your day, you feel great as well. You get that adrenaline rush, you know. Whenever you wake up early in the morning, you are a bit lazy, but as soon as that coffee goes into your system, you're all good to go for the day. And I think that everybody who's out there might be a lot of people sipping up coffee out of their cups as well. But ladies and gentlemen, over here, we definitely want to pray and hope that everybody out there is doing perfectly fine and are ready to kickstart their days with us.
Absolutely. And if you're at home, well, most of you are at home, so really hope that you have your plate of breakfast in your hand right now. And to begin with, I think, Shahzad, we need to talk about dreams, because a lot of people had goals and plans and dreams for the year 2020 as well.
Yeah.
But of course, Allah is the best of planners. He had another plan. My point of saying all of this is there is nothing in the world that should crush your dreams. I mean, there is nothing in the world that should actually put your goals on hold as well. This is going to end, inshallah, this pandemic, right? Things are going to get better. So do not, let's say, get depressed or get anxious about things coming your way. They will eventually. There's a right time for everything as well. Just a small example, I was reading a news last night, or probably early in the morning as well. J.K. Rowling, we know the writer for Harry Potter as well. She recently bought her childhood dream house. It was really cute to look at because she had dreamt of it even before she was, you know, she could not even afford it.
Was it a big house?
More or less, yes.
Childhood dream house. I mean, come on, you know, when you were a kid and you imagine and think and dream about big houses.
It cost around 400,000 euros. I don't know why I'm saying that, but it did. But here's the thing. I mean, she dreamt of it, right? But there did come a time where she actually realized her dream. So fingers crossed, everyone. Whatever you're dreaming for, I wish all the luck to you and, you know, direct all my vibes and positive energy to you as well.
Exactly. Well, that's great. But which is why, Shiza, I've got a very important question to ask. Well, it's not really that important, but I just need to know. And this is one thought, and it's a very random thought, and it came across my head, and I was just thinking over it. So I thought that I should actually ask her as well.
Go ahead.
Do you think that this has happened with you, for example, that you were actually supposed to host a show, or you were supposed to appear somewhere, and then you were co-hosting it with somebody else, so you know there were other people involved as well, and as soon as you know that you know they got paid quite more than you, would you be happy about it, or would you be not?
If I have to be really honest, if we're both doing the same job, I would not be happy about it, right? If I'm getting paid less. But to be honest, that never happened, so.
Exactly. So ladies and gentlemen, you know, after like hours and hours of thinking, you know, I came up with this solution that, you know, if this is something I'm going to get to know, I will learn that I've undersold myself. And if I don't get the show, I will learn that I've oversold myself as well. So please make sure that you're always somewhere in the middle as well. But I think it was an interesting question in everybody's life, you know, somehow revolve around the money. I mean, no matter what people say, but ladies and gentlemen, this is a harsh reality. We have seen in recent days as well that people have taken on new businesses, which is a great idea. Everybody's almost making PPEs, everybody's making masks. You know, even wedding designers, you know, wedding clothes designers are making masks as well for brides out there as well. So I think it's a different world altogether we're living in these times of pandemic.
And you know, Shahzad, I think you rightly said a lot of people are sort of taking on the opportunity of the coronavirus as well, and the situation itself, and you're developing things that the world needs right now. And in terms of economy, yes, all our dreams actually, everything that we need in this world, our lives do sort of revolve around economy. That is the main factor over here. So another news, Apple came out with a very reasonable iPhone as well. SE, I think it is. And well, it was specifically built for this time so that people who are actually going through economic losses can, well, still, can still boost Apple's business, but, you know, get a phone to themselves as well. It's funny how people will find opportunities, but, you know, sort of put the name of serving the world as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. And adding on to that, ladies and gentlemen, I think whatever money you have with you right now, you really need to sit on that because you don't know how things are going to be. But other than that, I just want to relate it with the scenario over here in Pakistan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as of today, we have somewhat 6,200 or 300 cases of coronavirus, and I mean positive cases. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that there's one more thing, and there's a debate which is going on for a longer period of time. and that is that we are not testing people. You know, we are only testing people who are showing up with symptoms as well. So there's this one thing which I cannot get my head around, and that is, how are we actually going to control this pandemic when we're not even aware how many cases we have inside the country?
Right.
And they're saying that, you know, that we will actually attain this ability of doing 1,000 tests per day. But if it's going to take a little longer, I think that it's a warning sign, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
And everybody needs to get tested over here. Nobody should be left out.
Absolutely, and Shahzad, there are, you know, thermal screenings going on in so many places as well, even outside our building and everything. But I think this is probably ignorant of me, but I don't understand how that, yes, you will probably come to know about the temperature if something may be wrong with the, you know, symptomatic stuff, but is that going to really help in testing if someone is corona positive or not? These are some of the very basic FAQs I need to ask someone very apt.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. And one more observation, ladies and gentlemen, I even have a video of that, and that is that, you know, with a lot of public institutions, I've seen that they're actually taking all the precautionary measures. But I think that there needs to be somebody who's very sensible in terms of getting the entire building or the infrastructure disinfected. Because yesterday I saw a video of this fire brigade trailer, which was actually in a public institution, and all they were doing was watering plants. And you know, to my knowledge, what I knew was that, you know, it should actually be the places where people are touching, people are sitting. What's the point of disinfecting the outside garden? I mean, I think everybody needs to disinfect the inside of the building where people are coming in and going out. So please don't do that. We really need very intelligent and wise people in administering all of these actions as well. And if somebody's going to ask me where did that happen, I will let you know, but in person. But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we really need to talk about the screening processes, how screening is taking place. In between, there was this news that, you know, not a lot, but a few of the testing kits weren't really up to the mark. So you never know whether the test results which came in were good or not. Then there are different laboratories who are doing all of these tests as well. I got confused myself before getting myself tested, even though I didn't, because I didn't have any symptoms after the quarantine. But then I think that everybody needs to look into it, and who needs to get themselves tested. I think that this is one of those questions which needs to be answered as well. And to get that answered, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who's a very regular on the show, first of all, a very apt doctor. She's affiliated with different labs as well. She's the medical correspondent for the Radio 89.4, which is an ISPR's initiative as well. And you know, there's a lot more to her profile, ladies and gentlemen, but today she's actually going to be a physician over here, and she's none other than Dr. Tahira Shahid. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum salam, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and it's wonderful to have you. But first things first, before I ask you any question, I want to know, how do you think that the initiatives taken by Pakistani government in order to curb the pandemic are on point, or do you think that there needs to be a little more?
I think personally that they are on point. Like, we are prepared more than any other developed nation. And the way we are responding to it, that just proves how well prepared we are. And we're lucky enough that we got some time as well. And being a nation that is not economically or developed or even technologically as developed as the rest, we have taken some really good measures. I think the way they've you know, really rushed it all up, the lockdown, despite all the resentment, despite the lack of civil sense in our society, all the measures that have been taken are pretty positive. Yes, we cannot achieve everything the way it should be achieved. A lot of people are not following stuff the way it should be achieved. We don't have enough resources. But in our available resources, I'd really like to appreciate our government initiatives, because they are actually doing something. They didn't just turn a blind eye towards it, and they are doing a lot. And all these measures that, you know, all these awareness campaigns you see out there, how people are being actually screened, and they've created, like, in every district headquarter and in every tertiary hospital, there is a facility for testing. Even though people might not know about it, but there is a facility that is available for testing. And even if somebody is tested positive, then there are designated isolation centers or quarantines for them. There are also quarantine centers for people coming over, you know, coming from abroad, and they're ensuring that they stay there for the 2 weeks, and then once they are cleared, then they're allowed to move out in the public. That's another thing, that our public or our people as such do not, are rebellious by nature. They somehow are not very obedient. They don't have the concept of civil obedience, and they don't also they're not very, accustomed to the idea that somebody tells them to, refrain themselves from something and they follow it. So that's where we are facing problems. And yes, if you compare the resources and you say we don't have enough of hospitals, we don't have enough ventilators, that's because we are a developing nation and we are, we have a huge population. And according to that, if we compare it relatively, we're pretty okay. Because see, in the West, where they have everything, they're still going, everything is out of control
right now.
More than
2,000 people died just
in one day, right?
Yeah. So I think we're lucky that we got some time. So it first affected them, and by the time it came over here, we were, we're well prepared, and that's why the rate is slow. And it probably, let's hope that it has mutated to a more milder form, and we are also more immune towards it, because we have a lot of immunity towards so many other infections.
I know,
generally, right? Yes. So we're a stronger nation that way. We're more resilient. We've faced almost everything, and come out victorious. So let us hope.
Yes, that we will come out of it stronger.
And just before Shiza shoots her question as well, just ladies and gentlemen, one simple thing which Dr. Taira has mentioned, that we might have stronger immune system, but that does not mean that corona is actually going to spare us. Please make sure that you take all the precaution measures, and then obviously you can have faith in Allah that nothing's going to happen to me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing, Dr. Taira, I do want to get into the detail of all the things that you mentioned, tests and screening and whatnot. But right now, I want people to hear the story, firsthand sort of the actual things that you're doing. You being a working mom, and how do you deal with your kids at home, and dealing with the entire quarantine situation first of all, and then going to work regularly, coming back home. How are you making your family safe, and what are some of the precautionary measures that you yourself are taking?
That's a brilliant question, and you being a doctor yourself, you're exposed to it all day long.
Yeah. In this regard, I'd really like to explain, people have a very wrong idea about how they use PPE.
Okay.
But whether it's a mask, or whether it's gloves, or whether it's that attire that you're wearing, you have to remove it from when you are moving out of the place of contamination. You cannot be wearing that same thing from home to that place all along the way, get into that contaminated place, carry all that contamination, and travel back with it. So there have to be specific dresses that are to be worn when you enter the office, and that dress needs to be removed when you leave that office, and that has to be disinfected or changed or disposed accordingly. And the same way, everything needs to be disinfected once you're entering your house. So only one member of your family who is the bread earner, or who is a frontline worker, or who is doing something that is, that cannot be stopped, needs to be going out of the house. And that person, when they come back, they change into their other clothes, they take a warm shower, they wash themselves with soap and everything, and they disinfect everything on a regular basis. So if you maintain it that way, and you make sure that, even no matter how much you want to hug your child or kiss them, you maintain a little bit distance these days if you're the frontline worker. So I think these basic precautions are sufficient for now. But if things get worse, then obviously you have to take a little more, you have to go a little ahead.
Extreme with isolation.
And it is indeed a little hard to stay away from your kids, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely have to admit. But one more thing, and that is, since we've mentioned that not everybody is getting tested over here in Pakistan. So let's just be clear on this. Who needs to get themselves screened in the first place?
All right, so I'll tell you, this is a very new disease, right? It came out in December, and before that there were no studies on it, there was no research, and the moment it came out and the outbreak was so sudden that people were so overwhelmed by it that, the research couldn't take place at that rate because of the lockdown and everything. That is why you must have noticed that even whatever was coming out of WHO kept changing over time. First they said you don't need masks, then they said you need masks, and it came, the information we were getting was so variant. Right, so people got confused,
airborne,
right? So yes, so people got confused. But the problem is nobody was completely wrong, neither were they completely right. They were just trying their luck, and they were saying, okay, this thing worked out here, so let's say this thing worked out there. And another thing was the lack of resources. Tests were not available. They were not even sure what kind of tests are there. Now, basically, there are 3 tests that are out there in the market that people are mentioning, right? The most reliable of them is the PCR test, right? It's the polymerase chain reaction interaction test. Now, what is this test? This virus is an RNA virus. So there's one RNA, ribose nucleic acid. So what happens is they take a nasal swab, a swab from your nose, or they take it from your throat, right? Somebody takes that swab, a proper professional who is, covered in proper protective gear and who knows how to store that sample and take it to the main lab. And then he makes sure that his PPE isn't contaminated when he transports himself as well to the lab. In that biosafety level lab 2, which means it's a designated lab for this, what happens is that this sample is, there are a few reagents that are going to convert, reverse transcriptase. It's going to convert that RNA into a DNA. Then there's another reagent that's going to multiplicate that DNA. And then there will be enough of that DNA which can, be dyed and viewed under the microscope to so that somebody can detect if that genetic material is inside a person. So that is the most definitive test, right? So you for sure know that, okay, that genetic material of a virus is present inside the person.
And is it available? Like
it is available. It is available. This is the test that was actually approved by the WHO. This is the test that our government had ordered all the kits for. These are the tests. So like one kit would have 900 tests, so capable of, and we have a lot of kits, right? So this is the test that they were advertising from the start, and every tertiary care hospital or district headquarter had the sample collection facility. So somebody can go there, get the sample collected, and then this goes to the main lab in, for example, NIH in Islamabad and many others in all over Punjab.
How long does it take to get the results back?
It's a 2 or 3 hour process, but you get it within 24 hours, the result is out, right? So now, but the process is that once somebody has the symptoms and they go and they get themselves tested and the government tests them and the result comes out positive, then the government knows that this person has to be isolated, right?
No,
so
but hold on, Dr. Taira, one thing that I need you to add over here. Who are those people who will be prioritized in terms of testing as well? Because not everyone is getting the facility.
Yes, because they're like all around the world, these reagents were not available. These kits were not available. They were expensive and they're short. That is why even countries like America could not test as
many people.
As many people as they should have. So they are always suggesting that, and there is no treatment. So in case what happens is we see things in the broader picture, right? If somebody does not have symptoms that are actually threatening, then they don't really need to get tested. For example, he could have a common cold, he could have a pollen allergy, he could have something that's just common normal influenza. So they don't really need to get tested. But if somebody has the symptoms, for example, somebody has the fever and they have the muscle ache and they have the dry cough and they are, some people are very anxious and some people need to join back a certain organization, or somebody wants to make sure that they're not infected. Number one, those, or the ones that the doctor has actually told them, no, you know what, you have been exposed to, you're a healthcare worker, you're a frontline worker, or you have interacted with somebody who's traveled from abroad, or you have come from abroad yourself, or you're, you already have some comorbid conditions, for example, diabetes, heart disease, liver disease, or you're in that age group and you're kind of suspecting that I might have it. So then it is always good to get tested because you can be sure, and you can then isolate yourself. You can quarantine yourself for those 14 days. Now, the thing why they were discouraging testing in the beginning was it was not available. And second, there is no treatment of this thing, right? So even if they do get tested, there is no real treatment that they can go for.
But there's a reason why I'm asking this question. And the reason is so that the government actually, government would be able to deduce the data and then they would know how to control this pandemic. But as of now, since we're not testing anyone, so we have no idea how many people are positive. And not just that, I think, because there are people who are positive but have no symptoms.
Okay, that's why I was coming that. So PCR test is basically, it tests the genetic material. But the other test that was out in the market and they were so cheap and people were advertising and selling them everywhere was the antibody test or the serology test, which is not FDA approved or which is not as yet approved by WHO. And there's a lot of things going on about that. Why? Because it tests the antibodies, right? So from the blood, you test the antibody. Now, antibodies can be IgM or IgG. So IgM is an immediate antibody that after 1 week of infection, your body develops against the organism, and IgG is later on, right? So this tells you that you have been exposed to the virus, and it also tells you if you have recovered from it. It doesn't necessarily tell you if it is still inside you or you are infectious right now. That is why it was discouraged. And then the specificity and the sensitivity. So there are two things, right? In a population, you need to see if a test is specific or it's sensitive or if it's accurate and there are not too many false positives or false negatives because they're going to mislead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the point of thing is you have to derive the data as to how many of you have been infected, how many of you are actually carrying the virus,
Yeah.
and
Right.
how many of you have actually recovered from it. So only then a data can be actually formulated in a certain country and a trend studied or set, and all these measures that we are taking, building hospitals and ordering so many
Right.
ventilators or whatsoever, they would make sense only after we have this real strong data with us.
Exactly.
All right, but
Yeah.
Dr. Thaira, I don't know if there's a yes or no to the question, but we heard and we read a lot that the recovery rate for coronavirus, if you do develop it, is 97%.
Yes,
is it true?
Yes, it is true. That is
Okay.
why we should not panic about it, but we should be very careful of containing it.
Yeah.
We don't want to spread the infection. That is very, very
don't want to be
important.
carriers.
Yes, because we might recover from it, and we will recover from it, inshallah. But people who are in the older age group, people whose
Weak
whose
immunity
immunity is compromised due to any reason, whether they're on immune therapy drugs, whether they're on those kind of drugs, they have some kind of autoimmune diseases,
Right.
they're on chemotherapy, on some kind of cancer,
Yeah.
they have liver diseases or heart diseases or asthma or an existing condition that is like COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease,
Okay.
then when they contract it, it might prove fatal for them. So
Exactly.
it's very, very
and
important. We're
and ladies
saving
and
our-
gentlemen, all of these people, who fall into these categories as well, please make sure that you look after. But very quickly, one more thing, since you're affiliated with a lot of laboratories as well, or probably one at the same time, there's one thing which I wanted to ask, and that is, when I got back to Pakistan, everybody suggested that you need to get yourself screened
Right.
or quarantine, So I was like, okay, I'll quarantine rather than, and there's a reason why I said that, because I actually called a laboratory. I told them that, I need to get myself tested.
Yeah.
There's this guy who showed up on a motorbike, only wearing gloves
Yeah.
and a mask, and he was outside my gate, and he was telling me, Ajay sir, aapka test karna hai. So I got worried, man. Even if I didn't have
Right, again.
corona,
Yeah.
God forbid, unfortunately, they're going to give it to me.
Yeah.
So what laboratories are you going to recommend to people if they are going to test themselves by themselves?
Okay, so now there are government ones and there are private ones, right? I'm not going to name any
And
private
is it
ones.
safe to have a rider coming up
No,
on a
it is-
bike,
it is-
not wearing
no,
anything?
It is not safe to have that because you really don't know if the rider is actually dressed in the proper PPE, if the rider is actually screened himself, if the rider is not going to, if is going to collect the sample correctly, is going to
Right.
transport it correctly, and then the sample is going to be disposed correctly or not, right?
Okay.
But if you, so I cannot sit here and advise or propagate a certain lab or talk against the
Okay,
others.
maybe you can tell
But
us
I
the conditions that we should,
Yes,
go
but
through.
what I can tell you is,
SOPs.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the SOPs are that if a person is coming to you, right, first of all, he comes from a lab that is standard enough and he has a certificate that says that he is not a carrier by any means and he's clear. And then he's covered in that every protective gear when he comes and he takes that sample from you in a closed space, right?
Yep.
And after he collects that sample, he changes into another gear before he travels.
Okay.
That he should be able to do that because if he's going to, he's going to take that sample from you, and if, for example, somebody is positive and it's coming all on his PP and then he's
Yep.
wearing that and going, then he's actually becoming a source of infection for the rest,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But yeah. So a lot of private labs now have the kits and are providing this because a lot of industries have reopened. People need to resume work, and everybody, all these employees need to be screened before they join work so that it doesn't, break out and you don't spread
Yeah.
infection.
And then very quickly, two last questions. That is, what happens after the testing? And what should the person do who actually got tested as well? And then, when do you think that this pandemic will be over? I think this is
while
a question
to
which
answer that.
everybody needs to
A while.
answer. Needs to get the answer
I wish
for.
I could answer that, and I hope so. Let us hope so that it is soon. Everything comes, everything spends takes its time, and then it has to leave,
Yeah.
whether it's good or it's bad. So we can hope for the best, and hopefully Pakistan will be able to fight it better. And we should be able to learn a few things out of this pandemic.
Yeah.
This includes civil obedience. This includes
So important.
sanitation. This includes hygiene. Practicing health and hygiene are going to be something that Pakistan needs to learn after this. And I'm sure that whatever the steps are being taken, whether the government or the private sector is taking, these should benefit all the patients of dengue, malaria, TB, pneumonia,
Right.
and all our existing infections as well.
So one jab and you go.
Yeah, so I hope that it improves our health sector as a whole. So now
Right.
what happens after the test? So if a person does not test positive, then it's fine. If a person tests positive, then they should isolate themselves. Now, as for now, the government and the private labs report to the government that this person is positive. So it's the government's responsibility to place them in isolation. That is why most people are very hesitant to get the test these days, because they don't want to be placed in the government isolations because they don't kind of trust that, and they would rather be, confined in the comfort of their own home. But then these people who don't wish to be tested need to be very, very civically responsible, and they need to realize that it is their moral responsibility that even if they will recover, they don't need to go out of their house and contaminate the rest who might not be able to recover.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for saying that, and thank you so much for being here, Dr. Tahira.
Thank you very
were,
much.
as usual, very amazing. And I think where you said, we do need to practice more strictly civil obedience. That is so true, because a lot of people, are struggling to do that as well. Just a little example, Shazad, yesterday I was craving for pizza, so I finally took the plunge and, ordered something off a food service app. I don't know if that's what we call it. So when there was an option of, minimal contact with the person. He can deliver at your doorstep, ring the bell and just leave. So we chose that. Maybe they were not probably trained enough or something. It's cute of them. I'm not condemning anything, but I'm just saying people like to, stay away or, avoid contact as well. So we did place a little tip with the help of a tape on the door, saying that is for the rider. So he rang the bell, and after 5 minutes, we were hoping that he leaves. After 5 minutes, we open the door. He's still standing there with our food. And he's like, Assalamu alaikum, is this for me? And he's like, sort of like this close, and then taking the tape off and everything. We tried to avoid the contact, but that couldn't happen. So this is for everyone out there. If you're not really taking this seriously, there are a lot of people who are probably not, that strong in their immunity, who are generally really taking that seriously. So please, if you are not practicing isolation, respect those who are.
Exactly.
On this note,
Yeah, Shiza, thank you very much for saying that. But yeah, on this note, we have to head out towards a short break, but just wanted to add on to this as well, and that is that looks like somebody wasn't willing to cook yesterday. Hence the pizza. But on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, since we have done several shows and we've talked about it, so they say that there can be virus on edible items as well. I mean, straight out of the oven, or probably, there might be other reasons as well. So please make sure that you don't touch the box.
Oh yeah, of course.
Or play with the gloves, take off the gloves, take out the pizza, have it all and enjoy yourself. But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, before we go towards the break, we've obviously discussed, we've had psychiatrists and psychologists over the show. We have made sure that we talk about all of those people who are feeling stress in these times as well. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we want to speak about all of those people who already had these problems, stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and all of these things. What are they doing, and how do you think that their families need to cope up with them?
All right.
Good thought. Good morning.
Badshai Mosque, or the Royal Mosque in Lahore, commissioned by the 6th Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1671 and completed in 1673, is the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world. Epitomizing the beauty, passion and grandeur of the Mughal era. It is Lahore's most famous landmark and a major tourist attraction. Capable of accommodating 5,000 worshippers in its main prayer hall and a further 95,000 in its courtyard, it remains the largest mosque in the world. From 1673 to 1986, a period of 313 years, when overtaken in size by the completion of the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. Today, it remains the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world after Masjid al-Haram, Grand Mosque of Mecca and Al Masjid al-Nabwi, Prophet's Mosque in Medina. The Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca and the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. To appreciate its large size, the 4 minarets of the Badshai Mosque are 13.9 feet, 4.2 meters taller than those of the Taj Mahal, and the main platform of the Taj Mahal can fit inside the 278,784 square feet courtyard of the Badshai Mosque, which is the largest mosque courtyard in the world. Architectural wonders of Pakistan.
Welcome back to Well This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, with the super energetic and the very inspirational Shahzad Khan and Shahzad Hashmi. Well, lately you might have observed all of our shows are all about COVID-19, the whole situation, how to get over it, how to deal with the, well, let's say loneliness or depression as well, because, well, depression is real. It does hit a lot of people in so many different ways that probably we don't even know, and we love to speak about it. We love to provide a platform to all the people who have been through it, to all the people who can help people come out of it as well. And we are doing something similar or along those lines today too.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Shahzad, for pointing us in the right direction as well. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we've pretty much discussed how people have had an impact of the COVID-19 and the pandemic which is going on, and how the situations have changed drastically for people. Because, you know, for somebody who was earning and they were very respected at their homes in the places, different places where they show up, imagine all of a sudden they do not have a running income coming in, that they have to rely on other people, and I think that it is very stressful.
Yes.
But we have discussed that bit. Now what we want to discuss today is that for all of those people who were already going through depression, who were already suffering from anxiety and all of these kind of problems, how do you think that their family needs to behave when they are around? And because I've seen it for myself as well, that for people who are actually depressed, they want to be in isolation by themselves.
Yeah.
Not really important, but I think that this is something I've observed as well. So what should we do? And since, you know, it's lockdown times, and, you know, people who do have these mental illnesses have very different kind of demands as well. How do we fulfill them? How do we tell them, or how do we convince them that, okay, you know, for now you just have to be at home and just make sure that you look after yourself? For that, I think the family needs to play a bigger role as well. And
Absolutely.
to discuss that role, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have actually been joined by a clinical psychologist. She's none other than Ms. Rooma Shahid. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. And alongside Ms. Rooma, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by another clinical psychologist from the Wellbeing Center. She's none other than Saida Ishrat Fatima. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam, I am fine.
Thank you very much for joining us. So let's get the conversation started, Ms. Rooma. For all of those people who had all of these mental illnesses before even the pandemic was here, how do you think that their family members need to be, or build a support system around them so that they don't do anything stupid?
Right. So isolation during this quarantine period can lead to so many problems. First of all, it makes the person feel that they have no control over their life anymore.
Yeah.
Second of all, it also makes you feel very helpless during this time, because you're not doing things that you once used to do, which again makes you feel very helpless. It also leads to so many mental health problems like anxiety, sleep problems, and depression, and the impairment of your higher order functioning, which again leads to other problems like problems in focus and concentration, deterioration in your memory, and hard to follow directions and stuff like that. So if we talk about people who are already depressed and now they're in quarantine, that we need to understand two things over here. First of all, the people who were fine before the quarantine period, they would get to understand how it actually feels to be depressed, right?
Exactly.
Because and the people who were already depressed, they would have somebody to relate to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a give and take thing. And at this time, you have to be there for each other to support
Absolutely.
each other. For those who are already depressed, just keep doing what you were doing before that. Keep talking to our counselors, get online help if you need that, and just find your own ways and seek help from people who you can relate to.
Okay, that is brilliant. Now, since we have, just not enough time actually, so I'm just going to jump on to the very important questions
Sure,
over
go
here. All questions are important, but still. Ishrat, can I call you that? Yes. Okay, so Ishrat, you've been working at the Wellbeing Center for a long time now, and you have been actually helping specifically children with special needs, like probably, issues with speech therapy and everything. Now, because of the social isolation, this whole situation, definitely they're not coming to the center as well. So first of all, are you still in touch with them? I mean, if you're not, for a very long period, there's going to be a break, and maybe, they go in reverse with all the development that they've been there. And are you also counseling the parents on how to deal with those children?
Yes, we give them online sessions, and also send some recordings that is very helpful for parents.
Okay.
People with different disorders like no eye contact, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, and like symptoms, eye contact, attention, low attention span, and different things. Antisocial behavior is mostly parents need counseling to treat to handle their children in this critical time.
Yes.
We provide the online sessions and recording to them.
Okay, tell me, what are some of the questions that parents ask you in terms of, if they don't know how to deal with their children amidst this situation as well? Because children tend to be traumatized or tend to be anxious as well, right? So what are some of the most commonly asked questions?
They ask question what strategies we use in homes, how can we treat in home, how can we take these sessions, precautions measure.
Okay.
And we give them online session, and through online session we teach the parents, and then in front of camera they
deal with the children in front of you.
Children.
But I think that it is very important to ask over here, and that is that when you have a session with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, it's more about being face to face, and this is where the other person actually feels a little relieved of whatever they were thinking about. Do you think that these online sessions can actually be helpful for people with mental illnesses?
Well, for some people it does work very well, but not for all of them.
Yeah.
I do get people coming in and telling me that they don't prefer online counseling because seeing their therapist was the only thing that made them leave the house at one point, and they liked doing it. That was the only motivator for them to leave the house. But now there are so many other reasons as well, like they're not comfortable in the house because someone else might hear them, hear their personal problems and stuff. So it's not the same with everybody. Some people do and some people don't agree to online.
All right, and thank you very much for saying that, and thank you very much for agreeing to that, because it cannot be everybody's Friday, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody responds to the situation very differently. But very quickly, one more thing, and I think that it is very important to ask, for all of those people who are not positive of COVID-19, but this very fear of getting or contracting the virus itself is actually having a larger impact on their mental health and health otherwise as well. People are very scared. People have gotten themselves into obsessive compulsive disorders as well.
Absolutely.
Everybody's just washing, everybody's just staying away from everyone as well. So where do we draw the normal line that, okay, these are the precaution measures and we shouldn't actually be going beyond that?
All right, but I'm glad you asked that.
Thank you.
First of all, you need to understand, you need to stop being obsessive about the coronavirus coverage on the media, right? Because what's going to happen is that with every sneeze and every itch, you're going to just consult Google. And I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but my mom does this. Mom, if you're listening to me, I'm sorry. But this is true. You're going to be looking into all those symptoms, and you're going to be self-diagnosing yourself. And again, that's going to create more fear and anxiety. So that's the first thing that I tell my patients, to stop Googling your symptoms, right? The doctors are there to take care of that, look into the precautionary measures that you've been given, and that's it for now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, now ladies, here's the thing. You being psychologists, I think you know better than any of us that humans naturally strive for communication or human contact. And that is so restricted. I mean, that is so, not possible at all in this situation. So Ishrat, let's begin with you. maybe these can be tips, or maybe this can be just simple ways to come out of it. How should we actually strike a balance in terms of communication as well, while being safe too?
I want to talk about
yes.
हम आपसे पूछना ये चाह रहे हैं कि जब हम सेफ्टी का ये जैसे मिस रुमा ने जो बात की है उसके ऊपर तो हम सारे मुत्तफिक हैं ही, लेकिन आगे जब हम इस प्रोसीजर को फर्दर और करते हैं या हम इस सिचुएशन के अंदर और डलते हैं तो उसका एक और इम्पैक्ट भी आता है इंसानों के ऊपर, और उसमें मैं ऐड भी कर देता हूँ मैं आपके लिए। वो ये है कि खुदा ना ख्वास्ता हो गया है मुझे ये डिजीज मैंने या वायरस मैंने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर लिया है, और अगर ये मेरे लिए फेटल नहीं भी है तो क्या मैं उस मेंटल प्रेशर के अंदर ये सोच के भी अपने आप को मार सकता हूँ कि यार ये मुझे हो गया, पता नहीं मैं बचूंगा भी या नहीं?
यस आप
जी बिल्कुल, आप उर्दू में बताएं, हम ट्रांसलेट कर देंगे।
बंदा जब उसकी जो थॉट्स होती हैं वो जो होती हैं उस पर डिपेंड करता है कि बंदे की थॉट्स क्या हैं। थॉट्स उसकी पॉजिटिव भी होती हैं, नेगेटिव भी होती हैं। इस सिचुएशन को आप अपनी थॉट्स के ज़रिए हैंडल कर सकते हैं। अगर आप इस पे कंटिन्यूअस नेगेटिव थॉट्स आपको आ रही हैं और आप एक सिचुएशन जिसमें थोड़ी सी पॉजिटिव चीज़ आप उसको भी नेगेटिव वे में लेके चलते हैं, जब वो नेगेटिव थॉट्स आपको हर्ट करती हैं फिर आप उसको एक आपके माइंड में आता है कि हाँ ये रियलिटी है, उस नेगेटिव थॉट्स को आप रियलिटी के उस पर लेके आते हैं और फिर ईच एंड एवरीथिंग आपको वही नेगेटिव और वही रियलिटी लग रही होती है, हालांकि ऐसा रियलिटी में नहीं होता।
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that, ladies and gentlemen. Our psychologist is actually telling us that whenever in a situation you will get a positive thought and you will get a negative thought, but if you're going to stick to the negative thought, it will eventually become your reality. Which is why I've got a very important question. People talk about vibes, or I do not get a good vibe from them, or I got a very good vibe, or the vibe is very mutual. So this is one thing which I don't know how many people will believe in, but this is something I believe in.
I
that
do.
Whatever you think about, it actually does happen.
100%, yes.
This is one thing which I'm very sure about. So I make sure not to think like that.
Yeah.
Is it true, first of all, and then do you think that this is the power of imagination, that it actually becomes your reality when you think so much about it?
I like where this is going.
And I like the way you said it.
Yeah.
That is actually true. And another thing that comes with it is that with a positive mindset, you can just conquer anything.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's true.
Right? You want to add something to it?
I add something. There is a positive. Your belief system is very important. If you believe in positive things, then positive things are in your life, and if you believe in negative things, there is negative things in your life.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Roma, please
Roma, did I
continue.
cut you off? Were you saying something?
No.
Okay, perfect. But here's the thing, I think you guys will believe this, of course you will. People who are already suffering with depression or any sort of, mental, let's say, disability, I want to say not disability, but, issues. It's really hard for them to actually come out of the negative thoughts. Yes, they will agree that negativity is surrounding them, but they don't really know how to come out of it. It's literally beyond their control.
Then you can't help them.
You can't help
Even if
they
you
cannot
try.
help themselves. I'm like, literally, they cannot help themselves. They know that, okay, the positivity is what I need, but they don't know where to find it. So what should they do, especially in this situation?
See the little things that you can apply in your daily life, especially during this situation, that can help you stay not entirely, like I'm not saying to stay positive ever since you come out of your bed until you go into your bed, but let's do tiny things in your daily life, in every day that can, just do something positive, even if that's a little thing. Like, I don't know, just take care of your personal, of your skin, drink water and stuff like that. That even counts as being positive.
And it's brilliant. And we'll move on to you as well, but we definitely want some quick tips onto that as well. For people who are in quarantine, people who are in isolation, or people who are working, how do you think that they really need to keep themselves busy? So can you give them a routine so that they're sure that they're looking after their mental health as well? Please go ahead.
Just keep living your life the way you were living before being quarantined, because if you were waking up at 8 a.m., keep doing that. Don't just stay in bed from 8 a.m. till, I don't know, whatever time you wake up. Don't be running around in your PJs the whole day. That's more important. Get dressed up if you're working from home. What I see people doing is that they just change their shirts and, get their hair done, and that's it. They're still in their PJs. Don't do that. It's not for other people. Just value yourself, feel important for yourself, and work on yourself.
Wow, that's
brilliant.
That's
Make your daily routine list, in which list list of their daily activities, and make sure they they do it every day, and take care of their sleep, take care of their diet, and all these things are very important for mental health. if in these days of lockdown, people's not care of their diet and their sleep, and its direct effect on their mental health.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you very much for saying that, and I think pretty much everybody is aware of that. But one simple thing and one last thing, and that is for all of those people who are healthcare givers, health providers, people like you, psychiatrists, how do they make sure that they are on the right path? Because every day you're absorbing so much from people who are not very well, and then they have an underlying sickness, may it be mental, may it be otherwise as well. How do you guys recover?
See, just by thinking the fact that we're contributing towards flattening the curve, that's very satisfactory.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my motivation
That's
from.
beautiful.
Well, that's good. What about you, Ishwar? कैसे जो है आप अपना ख्याल रखते हैं कि आपकी जो आपका जो ज़हनी तवाज़ुन है वो ठीक रहे, क्योंकि आप पूरा दिन इतने लोगों के मसले मसाइल सुनती हैं, तो आप कैसे मेक श्योर करती हैं कि आप ठीक है? क्योंकि मैं अगर किसी भी हालत में साइकियाट्रिस्ट या साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास जाऊंगा तो वो मेरे से बड़ा बीमार नहीं होना चाहिए.
हाँ, एग्जैक्टली.
अगर हम पेशेंट्स को डील कर रहे हैं 9 to 5, ठीक है, उसके बाद मेक श्योर कि हमें अपने लिए भी टाइम निकालना बहुत ज़रूरी है. ठीक है, उसमें अगर हम 1 घंटा आधा घंटा अपने लिए टाइम निकालें, उसमें बैठें और अपना आप कहीं आउटिंग पे चले गए हो या अपने घर पे ही हो, लेकिन अपने लिए आजकल नहीं है, लेकिन अपने घर के टेरिस पे आप बैठ के, अपने जो लॉन है आप उसमें बैठ के, लेकिन अपना जो है आप वो करो कि ये क्या सिचुएशन चल रही है, हम कैसे इसमें से कैसे निकले हैं, और अपनी पॉजिटिव थॉट्स उसमें हम ये भी कर सकते हैं कि अपनी फैमिली मेम्बर्स को लेके उसके साथ हम बैठ के प्ले कर सकते हैं, कोई गेम खेल सकते हैं.
बोर्ड गेम्स है ना, इंडोर
डिफरेंट गेम्स हम खेल सकते हैं. हम लोग जो है लॉन में बैठ के डिफरेंट गॉसिप्स कर सकते हैं, डिफरेंट इश्यूज जो हैं उस पे.
So much fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun is also important for your mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, whether I'm going to second this or not, whether gossiping is
Yes.
fun or not.
Gossiping
I think
is fun.
avoid gossiping as much as you can, because that's
Positive gossips.
yeah, I don't know
Gossips
whether
are different.
gossips
I
can be
think by
positive or
gossips-
not, but yeah, in general, just have a conversation. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Roma. Thank you very much, Ms. Ishrat Fatma, for joining us. It was wonderful to have you.
You wanna say
But very
something?
quickly, for all of those people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, I know that we do have a lot to cover, but we're very short on time, so I have to wrap up. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, one simple solution. First of all, you need to be positive. And what Shiza said, she was very right, that there are people who just can't help it. And they're like, you don't know our situations, and they just cannot see that ray of hope. No problem. All you need to do is that every day, as Ms. Ruma said and Ms. Ishrat Fatma said, that you really need to have a routine so that you look forward to doing something the next day. One is exercising. And for me, I look forward to go or riding a bike or probably washing my own car and doing my own things. And this is how you keep yourself busy.
Absolutely.
And within my own head, I know that this is something which I'm doing to keep myself busy, but I look forward to doing all of these things the next day as well.
Right. And Shazad, where you said there are people who are dealing with mental issues in terms of, not being able to find the ray of hope. They do see the ray, but the dark tunnel that they're in, it's so large they really can't reach that ray of hope or ray of light as well. So we're wishing a lot of good wishes unto all of you as well. And for today, I'm going to bake a lot of brownies. So if anyone wants, you're more than welcome to my doorstep. Well, not inside.
And there'll be a chit on there. There'll be a chit on there. Pick up your brownie and leave as soon as possible. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
Well This Morning.
Even if you want a brownie, or even if you want a session, or even if you want to talk, and if you have a mental illness, write to us. We will talk to you. We'll take you on the show. We'll take you on a call, and we will talk it out with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch the repeat telecast, please make sure that you tune in at what time?
5:11 p.m.
Yes, on Daily Motion. The address is
Well This Morning on YouTube. It's PTV World.
So, ladies and gentlemen, till the next time, all of us over here at PTV want you to be happy and safe. Make sure you take all the precaution measures.